It's time for another episode of the Sean Tabbitt Show, a podcast where I connect you with thought leaders from across the globe, digging into some of my favorite topics like personal development, marketing, spirituality, and pretty much any other shiny object that happens to catch my attention. Today, my special guest is Jen Stevens, and we're going to be talking about her brand new book, Cleanish, Eat Mostly Clean, Live Mainly Clean, and Unlock Your Body's Natural Ability to Self Clean. Jen, it is truly an honor. Excuse me, I'm going to do that part over again. Jen, it is truly an honor. Welcome back to the show.
Well, thank you for having me again. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, and I'm excited to have you back as well. I got so much great feedback with our previous interview related to intermittent fasting. When I saw you had a new book, I knew I just absolutely had to have you back on the show. However, I know not everybody in the audience has watched or listened to that last interview. So let's kick this off the same place we did last time. And that's by having you share a bit of the Jen Stevens origin story for somebody meeting you for the very first time in this moment. What do they need to know about you?
Awesome. Well, I'm glad to do that. So I am a 52-year-old, I guess, retired teacher, right? So you might think, what? How's a retired teacher writing about intermittent fasting or health and wellness? Well, because like so many of people, the people who are probably listening right now, I struggled with my weight and was caught on that diet roller coaster for so many years. And so I was caught in that yo-yo up and down diet world. I would do one diet or another diet. They got more extreme over time as I got more and more desperate to figure out what would work for me. I'm a smart person. I have a doctorate in gifted education. Why couldn't I figure this all out? Um, so basically, I yo-yo dieted myself up to 210 pounds. I was obese. It was 2014, and I had heard of intermittent fasting before. I had dabbled in it, but we didn't understand the science really back then. I'm sure there were some scientists who did, but what we had out there in the world was just really a lot of early days stuff. So I didn't understand about becoming fat adapted and becoming metabolically flexible, and that it got easier over time. So I had dabbled, but it didn't ever stick. I was basically trapped in the hard part all the time when I would dabble in it. But finally in 2014, I was desperate enough and I was like, I'm so tired of this. I know intermittent fasting is going to be my answer. So I gave it one more shot, went on to lose 75 pounds. That was my initial goal. Got to my goal in 2015. And I went on to lose about 5 more pounds over time. So total of about 80, based on the lowest scale weight I ever saw. I no longer weigh myself anymore. I haven't weighed for a few years, but I'm maintaining my goal size. I haven't had to buy bigger clothes ever again, ever since I lost the weight. So I've been maintaining since 2015. And, I'm about to hit my 7-year maintenance, I guess, anniversary, which is pretty exciting because we know the statistics of, the diet industry. Not very many people are able to successfully lose the weight and keep it off. And this is the only time in my adult life that I ever have been able to do it. So I will be forever grateful for intermittent fasting. And for anyone who wants to know, how to get started, my book, Fast, Feast, Repeat, will walk you through every bit of it. I have a 28-day fast start where you figure out the plan that works for you so that you can really nail the clean fast, let your body adjust to fasting. And then as you get past that adjustment period, you you learn how to tweak it till it's easy, find the approach that works best for you. You can start examining your food choices if you'd like eventually as you go along. But the thing about intermittent fasting that's so powerful that I understand now is what a healthy way it is to live. I now call it the health plan with the side effect of weight loss. When I started, I was 100% focused on losing weight. I was obese, I was not healthy in my body, but I wanted to feel better in my body. So once I got there, we really started learning more over time. More and more scientific journal articles were coming out. Top scientists were talking about fasting. We really began to understand this is a healthy way to live. So I would never stop doing intermittent fasting. Of course, I love the weight maintenance benefits of it, but it finally feels like, I've lost the diet brain that I had for so many years, and I'm off that roller coaster of ups and downs. It's really very freeing.
Well, and I'll say after our last interview, anybody and everybody in my circles who intermittent fast that listen to that, like, oh, I love her book. Her book was the difference for me. Like, I feel like yours is one of the more accessible, yet thorough
Mhm.
books that I've encountered on intermittent fasting. And if you want to check out that previous interview, I'll link to it in the show notes so you can listen to that as well. As a guy who works in publishing, I'm always curious about why was this your next book? So for you, was it requests from your fans? Was it what you were learning on your own journey? Was it a combination of the two? How did this new book come together?
So why cleanish after being an intermittent fasting writer?
Exactly.
That's a great question. And my very first book, Delayed on Deny, I wrote in 2016 and it was self-published. And so, then I decided I wanted to go the traditional publishing route, because I wanted to be able to reach more people. And you really, really can reach a lot, people in a different way with a traditionally published book. I was able to get on the New York Times bestseller list with Fast, Feast, Repeat, which is a huge accomplishment. And I was very excited about that. And, my first book, when I self published it, that was not really an option. Um, but why did I not write another intermittent fasting book? I will tell you, I had to convince my publisher and my editor because they were like, all right, we're so excited about how well Fast Feast Repeat did. What's your next fasting book going to be? And I'm like, guess what? It's not going to be a fasting book. And they were like, but you see, you're you're an intermittent fasting person. See, I didn't really know how it all worked. So I thought, once you're a New York Times bestseller, you've proven yourself and you can write whatever you want. So I had to talk them into the fact that I could write a book that wasn't about intermittent fasting. And so when I initially, came up with the idea of cleanish, I didn't want, I said everything I wanted to say in Fast Feast Repeat. And that's all still that's what you need to know about fasting. I'm not going to tell you there's now a new way to fast. There isn't. There's no new fasting book that I need to write. How some authors churn out the same thing over and over again, just they repackage it slightly. I'm not going to do that. It's not worth my time. And I'm not going to ask people to keep buying the same book over and over again. So I wanted to write something different. If you want to learn about fasting, go to Fast Feast Repeat. And if you want to go a little farther in your journey, there's Cleanish. I also really wanted a book that was not just for intermittent fasters because I have a lot to say. And Cleanish is not an intermittent fasting book, although there's a chapter in there, the subtitle, Unlock Your Body's Natural Ability to Self Clean. Well, fasting is one of the best tools your body has for self cleaning. But not everybody in the world wants to do intermittent fasting or they may not know they want to do it. So they're not going to pick up a book on fasting. They're like, that's not for me. But I feel like everyone in the entire world who is health focused wants to know how they can make changes that will improve their health. The whole idea of clean living, clean eating. We all know we should be making some of these changes. We know they're beneficial. We're not really sure why. We don't really know what to do. And that is why I wrote Cleanish because, I've kind of gone on this journey myself. The better I've felt with intermittent fasting, the more it's inspired me to eat differently. And the better foods I eat, the better I feel. And so that's carried over into like the shampoo that I use or the skincare that I use or how I clean my kitchen. So I've really gotten more and more interested in just being healthy in general. And so I don't want to just be, slim. I want to be vibrantly healthy and I want to make sure my body remains healthy as I age. That's really, really important to me. So clean-ish, the ish is also very important because you can start going down the rabbit hole of everything is dangerous and everything will scare you. And now I have to be perfect. And the message of my book is perfection is not required. And this is very much a process. It's not a book you sit down and you read from start to finish. Then you're like, all right, I read that. Now I'm just going to do it. No, I have after every chapter, the teacher in me really comes out. After every chapter, you have a place where you either reflect or take action, or it's a combination reflect and take action where you're examining, okay, what change can I make today? What do I actually have in my pantry? What's under my bathroom sink? Let's take a look at these things. Let's examine them. Wow, I didn't realize my shampoo was like that. How can I find something that is going to serve my body better? What simple swap can I make? And it really is very simple. So that's really in a nutshell why I wrote it, because I know that it's something that people want to do, but everything you find in the space is very black and white. Like, here is what you do. You must do this and you must do it now and you must make these changes. And that's not the way we live. We need to find something that feels doable and something like we can make these changes that will make a difference one by one instead of feeling like, wow, there's just so much I can't even do it. You get kind of overwhelmed when you try to do everything at once.
And I appreciate your mention of your self-publishing journey.
Mhm.
As a guy who works with authors who've self-published, traditionally published, or will alternate a self-published and then a traditionally published, and then back again. I love what you pointed out in terms of you can do a lot as a self-published author,
Yep.
but having the support of a traditional publishing team often will give you marketing, sales,
Mhm.
PR, and other support that unless you're going to employ all those people separately on your own, you generally don't have access to it. And so you can reach a different and a wider audience the majority of the time working in a traditionally published setting. So I love
Well,
that you
can I
yeah,
share a quick example
please
of
do.
that?
I would love to hear that.
The magazine Women's World, for example, they're on every, shopping where you go to the grocery store, there's Women's World. And they always have like diet of the week, whatever. they're promoting it. And I remember when Fast Feast or Peak came out, and I had been selling Delay Don't Deny. It had been a number one weight loss bestseller on Amazon as a self-published book. It sold in the top 100 of all books on Amazon more than once. I mean, it was a really good little, selling self-published book. But I remember I was talking to the person who was writing the article for Women's World, and she's like, "Why have I not ever heard of you before? My self-published book was very successful." And I said, "Well, I self-published." She's like, "Oh, that's why." It was like she dismissed it in a way as being and not, but I heard the way she said it, right? And I'm like, wow, like having it be traditionally published gave it that one more step. And the irony is, no one would have published my first book. I was a nobody school teacher who lost some weight, right? No traditional publisher was going to take the risk on me. So I love self-publishing. I'm not demeaning it. I am grateful for self-publishing it. And I would do everything exactly the same way that I did it again. And will I ever self-publish again? I might. There might come a time when I want to publish something that it would make more sense to self-publish again. So we are so very fortunate to be living in the time where we have these options because self-publishing is very valuable and it's where you can get started. So I just had to say all that.
No, that was good. And the thing you point out with that story of getting interviewed for the magazine is that was based on relationships, where
Right.
the person working for your publisher is a gatekeeper or has
Yeah.
relationships with gatekeepers, and so they are able to open doors that are just different. Because folks who are working at a high level for media organizations and various publications, they're not trolling Amazon looking for people to interview. They're
No.
they're talking to the publicists, friends that they hang out with to find out who they should be excited about, who they should be talking to. So just like in every other part of life, relationships are key. I
Mhm.
love that you were able to get your publisher to pivot and let you go in a slightly different direction. That can be one of the big difficulties for an author and a publisher is where you're kind of pigeonholed in an area because you are the poster boy or poster girl for that
Mhm.
topic, and yet you were able to talk them into going a completely different direction. That's not always easy to do. But I'm going to guess your fans are excited to have more of your brilliance and wisdom to pull from. Let's go next into. I guess I'd love to hear a little bit about in terms of your journey, research, preparing for
Mhm.
the book. Chemicals, genetically modified, this, that, and the other thing. That's everything everywhere around us these days. Were you surprised at how bad things were? Did you kind of go open the Pandora's box and go, "Oh wow, this is much worse than I thought," or
Yeah.
were you already quite aware?
I really, really was. And I thought what's so funny is I thought I was living a cleanish life before. And then I started writing the book and, I knew the kind of things I wanted to talk about. And the more I dug in and started researching, I have a doctorate. I mentioned that. Or did I mention that? I don't know. I have a doctorate in gifted education and I know how to research things and find things. But the more I started to dig in, the more I found that really like I was like, "Oh, it's way worse than I thought." We're used to hearing alarming headlines. So we kind of like minimize that something is going to be bad because you're like, why, eating an almond a day will kill you or like why eating an almond a day is the best thing you could do. We're used to these sensational headlines to the point where they were like, never mind, this is all just noise. So as I started to dig in, I started becoming even more and more motivated to see, gosh, we really do have a lot going on with, whether it's talking about, like you said, GMOs in our foods. And, by the way, they're rebranding GMOs. Have you seen
I
that
don't think
news?
I mean, there's always a marketing campaign somewhere to make something a little more appealing or less scary if you're selling a
They've
product.
rebranded them for 2022. And so they learned that consumers didn't like genetically modified, that wording. So now they're calling it like bioengineered. I can't remember. They just changed the word of it. So they think we're going to like that better, but we are not going to be fooled. It's still the same thing. They're just changing the terminology. But, all the reasons why it matters and that all these tiny exposures really do add up. And I also learned how my main problem was the idea of greenwashing. The greenwashing is where they, have labels that make things look better than they are. So you think you're buying something that's clean and green, and then it really isn't. I thought I was living this cleanish life, but when I really started to dig into greenwashing, I realized I had been super fooled by a lot of the products that I was buying. And one of the best resources, and I share this in Cleanish, is the Environmental Working Group. Are you familiar with them at all?
No, this is the
They,
first time I'm hearing about them
okay,
today.
they have a lot of top scientists, from any university you could name where top scientists come out of. And they have an app called the Healthy Living app. And you can search in there for cleaning products, personal care products, food items, and then they rate them based on the ingredients. So in Cleanish, I tell the story of one day I was looking for a mouthwash. And I'd been to the dentist, my crown was weird. And she's like, get some mouthwash, use your water pick, spray it up around the crown. That will help. So I'm like, okay. So I was working on writing the book. And so I'm like, wonder how this mouthwash my husband has, because I wasn't really using mouthwash. So I went and I looked on the app and how it was rated. It had like not a very good rating, even though it was marketed as healthy, designed by a dentist, had aloe vera. It was 100% what you would grab if you were looking for a clean mouthwash, right? And so then I started looking. I'm like, well, let me just browse the mouthwash category in this healthy living app. And I started with the best rated. I sorted them best to worst and found that a very, very highly rated mouthwash was Listerine Original. That amber Listerine that my grandmother used was safer, had better ingredients, less funky things than the one that looked so clean that I would have gravitated to. And so the same thing with a lot of, the cleaning products that I found. I found the dishwashing liquid that I kept by the sink that was a brand that I thought was so clean and green. I looked it up on the app. It had like a D rating or something. And that blue brand that you see advertised that you would never think of as clean, rated higher. Now, I didn't end up switching to the blue brand. I found something that's even better than that. But that just goes to show that we think we're making a healthy choice when really you'd be surprised at what's really in the stuff we buy. So it wasn't hard to buy Listerine Original instead of that more expensive, kind that my husband was buying. That was actually a swap that saved me money. And switching up to a better, now I found a brand of cleaning products that I really like, and their hand soap, you make it from like a concentrate that they send you, so I'm saving money there as well. So it doesn't have to be more expensive. And all throughout the book Cleanish, I'll help you walk through and take stock of what you're doing, that you can make these changes, and it doesn't have to be hard, it doesn't have to be expensive, and you want the products to work. And so that, and with food, you want your food to be safe, you want it to be clean, you want it to be adding to better health instead of, adding to your toxic load. But I found that the higher the quality of the food, not only do you feel better after you eat it, but it like actually tastes better too. So it's not like you're on some crazy diet, like, well, I can't eat anything good anymore. That's not true. Like I can't eat pasta, it's not clean. Not true. It's just all about finding the swaps that are better than the other ones.
And in terms of the first part of the book, you take us through some different areas of the house: the kitchen, the bathroom, the laundry room, places we should be concerned about. You've alluded to some of this, but in terms of that place in our house where we could make the most changes immediately, what might surprise us there?
Like you mean the room of your house where you need to make the most changes?
Well, and decorating tips. No, no, no.
Okay, well,
In
I
ter-
got those too.
In terms of food, cleaning products, like as you did your research for the average person, what's maybe the scariest room in their house and they don't realize it?
That's a great question. I think probably food. I would start with food just because of the way that that is. If you're choosing like a cleaning product or a personal care product that has chemicals you don't want, I mean, yes, those chemicals are getting into your body. You don't want to do that. But food is more than just you don't want to put, the bad stuff in. You also really do want to put the good stuff in. So, food serves a purpose in our body. Our shampoo makes our hair look nice, but when you're eating, whole grain bread that's organic, you're getting benefits from that are beyond just bouncy hair. Does that make sense? By the way, I use a very nice, I don't know if is this a video too? Can people see my hair?
Yes, yes, they can see your hair.
I have a fabulous my hair is way better now that I switched to a very, very clean beauty brand that makes a huge difference. And my hair's never looked better. So see the changes can be good. But I would say food is the number one thing because, you know, we know about vitamins. We know about, you can't just pop a vitamin pill though and get the same nutrients that you're getting from the food. Because in those foods, there are thousands of phytochemicals, and we don't even know what they all do, but our bodies know what they do. And so there is no substitute for eating healthy foods to nourish your body. So if you can just swap out ultra processed versions of foods for less processed, delicious versions of the same foods, like that pasta that I mentioned, there's some pasta you can buy that is very heavily ultra processed and refined and versus you can buy pasta made from chickpeas. And you might be like, that sounds super weird. Why would I do that? But it's delicious. You're not even going to notice. You might actually be more satisfied after eating it because it has, it's going to fill you up differently. So, experiment with things like that. Every time you choose a better product, you're helping your body.
In part two of the book, you talk about what we can do to unlock our body's self cleaning tools. Somebody who's read your other books may go, "Do I really need to read this middle section of the book?" What's one or two new or surprising things somebody's going to encounter in part two of the book?
Well, just I also go into how important food is for self cleaning because, for example, we know we've heard people talk about I need to do a cleanse, I need to do a liver cleanse or whatever. Well, your liver never stops cleansing your body. And we want to support all those bodily functions that are designed to keep us, we know our kidney needs to work well. Our kidney filters things out. We have to have a great working kidney. Or you'll be on dialysis. We know the rise of all these, a lot of people on dialysis now because our health is not good. We want to support our body's natural functions. And food helps us to do that as well. I was just talking about the importance of food. Eating foods that provide your body with the nutrients you need support your body's self cleaning mechanisms. So it's not just you're not putting toxins in by choosing to eat, broccoli, organic broccoli. Or regular broccoli would be better than crackers, but organic broccoli is even better. But the thing is that broccoli is going to go in there. Your body's going to break it down, and those nutrients are going to help your liver. They're going to help your kidney. They're going to help all parts of your body do what it needs to do. So the power of real food, and, I used to only think about food as, is this going to make me lose weight? That was it. That's all I thought about. And when you start to realize, Hippocrates said food is medicine. He understood that. Like, how many thousands of years ago did he say that? It was a long time. Food is medicine. And if we can get back to the idea that food is medicine and it's powerful, it's not just, I'm hungry, I'm going to eat these potato chips. That's not doing a good thing for your body at all. Your body's like, that was not food. That was, we call them empty calories for a reason, but you can nourish your body and send down some food that's going to make you feel more satisfied and actually do good things for you.
And we're recording this in January, and this is the time of year when people have made crazy, broad sweeping resolutions and they're cutting everything out of their life. Talk to us a little bit about having grace for yourself and really pursuing something in the direction of where we're making sustainable changes and not
Mhm.
just going, sometimes we should stop things and go cold turkey and all that. I get that. But a lot of times those things wane over time. How do we make small, sustainable changes?
Well, that's the ish that I have in the title, clean ish. We're eating mostly clean. We're living mainly clean. We're not sweating the fact that we're not perfect. And when you make a resolution or a goal that is going to be impossible to keep, you're going to fail at it, right? I mean, we know that. We've made those goals before. Like, I am going to be 100%, a vegan now. And I'm not going to say that that's unsustainable. A lot of people are very successful sustaining that sort of lifestyle, especially if they're passionate about it as a like from a ethical point of view. But if you're just trying to make like broad sweeping changes to everything at once, it's a whole lot harder to maintain. And then you start feeling like you cheated. So that is where, like for me, when I was trying to do something in the past and I was like going to be 100% at it, as soon as I cheated, I was like, well, that's done. I'm finished with that. I failed at that. I can't do it. It's too hard. But when you give yourself grace and you have the ish in your life, you're like, well, that wasn't cheating. I chose to have, those Doritos because I nourished my body really, really well earlier today, and I'm eating other really nourishing foods. And sure, this is not going to nourish my body, but they're delicious and I'm going to eat them. And that is okay. I didn't cheat. I didn't fail. I made a choice. And that's where the ish really comes in. And you learn that over time, it's the majority of what you do that adds up.
And in terms of the reader's journey with the book, they spend the time going all the way through it. What does success look like for you? How do you want to see every reader's life shifted or changed?
Well, I want to see people feeling empowered, and I don't want people to get stressed about it. That's the main thing. I want them to feel like knowledge is power and you're always going to be making changes as you go. The way that you look and feel and act and live your life in 2 years is it might be very, very different than the way you're living it today. And so this is a process and a journey. I'm certain that I'm going to keep making changes to things as I go. The more I learn, as I get older, as we learn more with science, it changes. So it's just you have permission to experiment. And, at the end of Cleanish, after reading, when you get to part 3, that's when you're developing your personal definition of cleanish eating and your personal definition of cleanish living. You're deciding, okay, what am I definitely going to not include anymore? What am I going to, let in here and there? Like, as I said, I let in Doritos, but you know what I never let in? I don't use artificial sweeteners ever because they don't add any benefit to my life. I don't think they have any health benefits, and I don't like the way they taste. So there's never a time in my life where I need to drink a diet soda, ever. I'm not ever going to do that. That is my personal definition of I don't need that. If I loved diet soda and wanted to include them every now and then, I would, but they're not part of my life. So everyone is going to make those decisions for themselves. And if I did, you know, love diet soda and want to have one, I wouldn't feel like I had like ruined my life because I'm making changes in other areas to allow in the ish.
And in terms of connecting with you, online community, which I know has been important to your previous books, where do we discover you and all the Jen Stevens related things on the web?
Well, everything links through jenstevens.com. Jen is Gin, Stevens with a PH, jenstevens.com. You can find resources for Cleanish at jenstevens.com/cleanish, including a PDF that accompanies the book that walks you through all the reflect and take action. Um, and then I also have a community. I have left Facebook. I don't know. Had I left Facebook the last time I talked to you? I don't
I
think I
think you were still
had.
on Facebook last year. Yeah.
I'm gone. I'm gone. I left Facebook completely and started a private community. Um, and you can get to that at jenstevens.com/community. And I'm so thankful that I did that. We were approaching 500,000 members in our Facebook groups, and it was too large to manage and we couldn't meaningfully connect. And so I really like to talk to people. Instead, all I was doing was admin stuff. I was approving members and approving posts and handling problems. And I'm like, I just want to talk to people and help them. So now we're in a place where it's smaller and the community, because it's a paid community. So everybody that's there is a little bit more vested than a Facebook member. So, and they're also a very well-educated community. So I don't have to personally tell everyone every answer, although I'm certainly involved all day. But you were having a Cleanish book study right there on jenstevens.com/community. That'll get you to the private community.
And like we do with every episode, we'll make it easy. We'll have links in the show notes to places where you can pick up Jen's new book and places where you can connect with her as well. It's time to bring this episode of the Sean Tabbett Show to a close. Many thanks for being a part of my conversation with Jen Stevens. Once again, our book today was Cleanish: Eat Mostly Clean, Live Mainly Clean, and Unlock Your Body's Natural Ability to Self Clean. Jen, I just want to say thank you so much for sharing with us today. I really enjoyed our conversation last year, and it was an honor to have you back on the show once again. Thanks so much.
Well, thank you. I enjoyed it.